So moving on to the next question. So is indentation required in Python? So you must first know what is indentation. So indentation means you are creating a new block. So in any programming languages, we have this concept of creating a block. So when you create a for loop, you want to write some instructions which belong to only for loop. When you create a if condition, you want to write some instructions that belong to only if condition. So that is nothing but creating a block. So if there is more than one instruction, we use curly braces to write the instructions inside the curly braces. But in Python, we don't use curly braces. We use this colon. So when you create a for loop, at the end of the for loop, you will write a colon, and when you come to the next line, there will be automatically an indentation created, maybe of one tab space or two tab space, depending on the system. So that is known as the indentation. So why indentation is necessary is you will write the instructions inside that indentation. So whatever instruction you write in that indentation belongs to the for loop. So similarly, after creating the if condition, at the end of the if, you have to give a colon. So again, when you come to the new line, an indentation is created. So you write instructions in that indentation. All the instructions belong to that particular if condition. So like this, when you create a function also. So function is very important. So when you create a functions in Python, again in any other programming languages, we write curly braces, right? But in Python, after creating the function, we give a colon. Then when we come to the next line, an indentation is automatically created. So we write some instructions which belong to the function. So it is in the same indentation. So once the function is over, we have to we have to end the indentation. So like this, indentation is very necessary. So indentation is necessary for Python. It specifies the block of code. So you are creating a block using the indentation. All code within loops, classes, functions, etc. is specified with an indented block. So indentation can be used in loops, classes, functions, etc. When we create class, we create an indentation like that. So it is usually done using 4 space character. So I told you the indentation will be one tab space from the leftmost corner. So, but in sometimes I have seen it will be of 2 tab space, okay, 6 character space. It depends. It will not be every time. It will not be different, but usually most commonly uh, used indentation is one tab space or 4 space characters. So if your code is not indented, it will not execute accurately and it will throw errors as well. So imagine if you want to print hello 10 times using for loop. So what will you do? You write that print hello inside the for loop, correct? But if you don't create the indentation, if you write print hello, usually, I mean, if you forget to create an indentation and if you write print hello from the left side itself, without giving a 4 character space, without giving a one tab space, then that print hello statement is not belonging to the indentation now. So what happens? It will not print 10 times. Okay, you will write for I in range 10, then you give colon, then when you come to the next line, it will be one tab space and you write print hello. Now this is the correct code. The print hello will be executed 10 times. But if you don't give a colon and if you don't give indentation, it will not be printed 10 times. It will be just one time. So this is inaccurate. It is running, the program is running, but inaccurately. So this is what happens when you don't give the indentation. And sometimes it may throw you errors. All right. So What is the difference between Python arrays and lists? So I hope the indentation concept is clear. You can try with some examples. You can try giving the indentation for loop, for if condition, for functions, for classes. Okay. Then the next one, what's the difference between Python arrays and lists? So arrays and lists in Python have the same way of storing data, but arrays can hold only a single data type, whereas lists can hold any data type elements. So arrays in any programming languages, it's a group of elements. An array can hold more than one element, but the limitation is that it can hold only one data type elements. It can hold either integers, it can hold either characters, it can hold either all strings. All right. So array can hold elements of only one type. Okay. But list is also a collection of items, but it can hold items of many types. It can hold items of different types. Okay, you can have strings in the list, you can have integers in the list, you can have float in the list. Any data type you can have in a single list. So that's the difference between arrays and list. And arrays in Python are enclosed in square brackets. So you can see the example there. Import array as ARR. So we are importing the array module. Then my array equals array.array a 1 2 3 4. Then my list equals 1 abc 1.20. Print my array, print my list. So when you print my array, it will print a 1 2 3 4, and when you print list, it will print 1 comma abc comma 1.2. So here you can see lists are enclosed in square brackets. It can hold integer, there is one integer, there is one string, there is one float. Okay. The next question, what are functions in Python? So function are again a very, very important component of any programming language. So function, the definition of function is that they are block of code. So a program is also a block of code. So similarly, function is also a block of code. It is nothing different. It is nothing special. It is nothing new. Okay. A function is also a block of code, but a function has its own task to do. A function is created to perform some specific task. So function is a block of code which is executed only when it is called. To define Python function, the define keyword is used. So functions make your programs more structured. Without having functions, your program doesn't look structured. So just imagine your house without having any bedroom, hall, garden, kitchen. Okay, it's just imagine your house as a plain, a single hall, a long single hall. So it doesn't look like a house. It doesn't look structured. It is not structured at all. So, but when you add these bedrooms, when you add this kitchen, okay, so when you add this garden, all right. So when you want to sleep, you go to the bedroom. When you want to watch TV, you will come and sit in the living room. Okay, and when you want to cook, you go to kitchen. So each component here has its own function. You don't cook in your bedroom, right? So like that, a function has its own task to do. So when you can in your program, you can define one function for addition, one function for subtraction, one function for multiplication, and one function for division. Like this, you can have any number of functions. So whenever you want to perform the addition, you will call only the add function. Okay, you will not call any other function because the code for addition is inside this add function. So like that, every function has its own task to do, and whenever you want to do that particular operation, you will call only that particular function. So they make your program more structured. And one more advantage of having functions is that it will reduce the complexity. It will make your programs compact, so you don't have to write the same code again and again. You can just write the code one time and store it in functions, and whenever you want you can call the functions without writing the code frequently. You can just write once. Okay, so functions are to be used in every program, okay, to make your program structured. And in Python, we create the function using the def keyword. So def is the keyword used to create the function. So again, you can see in the slide, you are creating a new function. Like the name of the function is new function. So all the functions will have a pair of simple brackets. So it doesn't mean that whatever has a pair of simple brackets is a function, but all the functions will have a pair of simple bracket. So just understand what I said. Whatever, all that have a pair of simple brackets may or may not be a function, but a function will have a pair of brackets after them. So this is how we denote the function. So here, new function is a function. We are creating a new function using the def keyword, and you can see after the pair of simple brackets we have a colon. So it means we are creating a block. So you can see the print function, it is not starting from the left side, it is giving one tab space. Okay, here you can see the print is not aligned towards the left, it has come little towards right. So this is the one tab space. So automatically you don't have to give this tab space manually in Python. When you are using some valid compiler, that when you give a colon, the compiler will automatically assign a tab space for the next line till you uh, come out of the function. Okay, so here what is the task of this new function? It's printing hi, welcome to programming. So whenever you call this function, whenever you execute this function, the message hi, welcome to programming is printed. So it will not do anything else. The task of this function is to print this statement. So you can use a function any number of times. Okay, you don't have to you don't have any limitation. So here you have two types of functions with you. So let me tell you that also. Here print is a default function, built-in function. So there are two main categories of functions. One is built-in function and one is user-defined function. So built-in functions in Python, there are so many built-in functions, maybe around 1000 to 2000 built-in functions in Python. So what is a built-in function? So built-in functions are first of all functions. They are the block of code which has some particular task, the same definition. But built-in means they come automatically when you download the program, when you download the compiler. So when Python was created, the developers have kept some functions ready to execute, and they have kept them in the program library. So you don't have to write the code for these built-in function. You can just call it. So here, for example, print is a built-in function. Are you writing the code for print function? No, you're just writing the name of the function and writing the string, the statement. So when you execute this program, the statement will be executed, the statement will be printed. So there are, print is a function. In the previous slide I have shown you, right? Yeah, all these things, int, float, or then hexadecimal, order, then octal, tuple, set, list, dictionary, string, complex, all these are the built-in functions. Okay, and as I told you, there are around 2000, maybe more than 2000, I guess. But a large variety of built-in functions are available in Python. Okay, and you can see the first line, define new function. So this is a user defined function. So the second category of function is user defined functions. You will write the code by yourself. it will change according to the purpose. So for now, I have just given you the basics. And one more thing I wanted to tell you, calling the function. I told you the functions are kept ready to execute. When you call the functions, they will execute. So what does it mean? So just imagine you are bringing the ingredients from the market. Okay, that is the first step for cooking. Then you are cooking the dish. Okay, you are cooking the dish. That is the second step. So you have kept it ready to eat. Now what's the next step? You will have to eat it. So that's the third step. So similarly, functions should be first designed. Okay, it's like the first step, bringing the ingredients. You have to know what are the inputs and what's the output. Then the second step, you will cook. So here also, defining the function is the second step. So defining the function means writing the code for that function. In simple words, you will write the necessary code for that particular function so that it does not have any errors. Then finally, it will not get executed, right, unless you execute it. It is ready to execute, but if you have kept the dish ready to eat, if you have cooked it, but finally you have to eat it, right? So similarly, to call the function means to actually execute the function. So the first step is declaring, second step is defining. The function is ready to execute at this step. Now if you want the function to execute, you have to call it. So the third step in function is calling the function. Okay, so later we will see all those stuff. So this is a short introduction about functions. Then okay, now you will write print hi welcome to programming. So that's the only instruction you want to have in this function. So it's only one instruction. Now you should come out of the function, correct? So once the task of the program is complete, you should come out of the function. So you should press the backspace. Now you can see new function, this one, calling the function. So this is known as calling the function. You are calling the function by its name. So how did you call the print function? You called it by its name, correct? So similarly, to call any function, you must write the name of the function, then write a pair of brackets. And it's a very simple function. There is no inputs here in the bracket, so don't jump to that right now. And when you write pair of input, pair of brackets, you can give a semicolon. So in Python, there is no concept of semicolon, first of all. So I will not suggest you give this semicolon. So if you write new function, it is known as calling the function. You are calling the function means you are executing the function now. So when you do this, so when you write new function, a pair of brackets, it means you're calling the function. So what happens here? The compiler will check for this function with the same name. The case should be perfect. So here they have written capital N, then new function at the beginning. So here also it should be the same name. So new function. So if there is a match, if a function is present in your program, then what happens? The control goes to this function. Okay, the control goes to this function. Now when it goes to this function, it will substitute this function. So what's the task of that function? It will say hi welcome to programming. That's all. So when you call this function, you will get the output welcome to programming. So these things. Okay, so this is the program. What are the functions in Python? Guess it is understood. The next question, what is self in Python? So self is an instance or an object of a class. In Python, this is explicitly included as the first parameter. However, this is not the case in Java, where it is optional. It helps to differentiate between the methods and attributes of a class with local variables. The self variable in the init function refers to the newly created object, while in other methods it refers to the object whose method was called. So the init is a compulsory thing when you create classes. So to create, before creating the new objects, you must use this init function. So it will instantiate the objects for that particular class. Okay, you can pass some arguments like attributes. All right, so later you will define some methods, but before that you should give the attributes for these objects. So you do that using the init function. So init function is compulsory. It may not be compulsory in other programming languages, but in Python it is compulsory. All right, when you create a class, you should write this init function to instantiate the objects. Sorry, I was telling the definition of init, but self. A self variable in the init method refers to the newly created objects, while in other methods it refers to the objects whose method was called. So self is like this keyword in other programming languages. So you write this dot name, this dot id, this dot age. Okay, so similarly in Python we use self. Okay, this self is used inside the init function. Okay, so um, this, I mean, self dot age equals age, self dot name equals name. So this self keyword assigns the values to that particular object on which you are experimenting, operating. So that's the use of this self keyword. So when we do the examples, it will be much clear. So the next question, what is init? So here comes the init function. So init is a method or constructor in Python. This method is automatically called to allocate memory when a new object or instance of a class is created. Object and instance are both same. Okay, all classes have the init method. So init is a method or constructor in Python. This method is automatically called to allocate memory when a new object instance of a class is created. All classes have this init function. So I told you init is a compulsory thing in Python. When you create classes, you must use this init function. So here there's an example. So the things will be clear in this example. So you are creating a class called employee. So class employee, then colon, again you are starting the indentation here. So you can see there, define init self, name, age, salary. Okay, so these are the attributes for this object. So here the first thing we are doing after creating the class is the init function. So we are writing self dot self comma name comma age comma salary. So the first argument inside the init function should be always self. Okay, so this will come to help later. So define init self comma name comma age comma salary. So here name, age, salary are the attributes of employee. Where you create any employee object, so you should pass these name, age, and salary for that employee. Every employee will have name, age, salary. Now, how to write the code inside the init function? So very solid here. The indentation is not. I have not given the indentation here, but you should give the indentation here. So because after define init, there is a colon. So the self dot name, self dot age, self dot salary will be indented, one tab space. So just do that. Okay. So what code we are writing here? So self dot name equals name, self dot age equals age, self dot salary equals. You can write here salary or 20,000. So I think 20,000 is fixed for all the uh, employee objects. So whoever you create, the salary is fixed because we have given here a constant value that is 20,000. So this self dot name equals name, self dot age equals age. So when you create the objects, this self will allocate different values what you give to that particular object. Example, you can see E1 equals employee. So E1 is an object of employee class. His name is XYZ. The age is 23, but the salary is 20,000. So here it takes these new values XYZ 23. Then when you create a new object, E2 equals employee ABC 25, 20,000. So again, because we have used the self keyword, so that the attributes, the values of each objects will be different. It belongs to only that particular object. Okay, so XYZ belongs only to E1, ABC belongs only to E2, like that. So that's the use of self keyword. So it's just like this keyword in Java or C++. Then once we create the object E1, then if we want to print the name of E1, we should write print E1.name. If we want to print age of E1, we should write print E1.age. If we want to print salary of E1, we should write print E1.salary. So that will give you the output XYZ, 23, 20,000. So this is the explanation of this init function. All right. So hope the things what we have done in this session are clear. Any doubts, you can mail us. All right. Thank you.